Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is another speed drawing. As I've stated in the previous one, if you would like the full length video of me drawing and rambling, I will have that on the hidden extras tab on my website. You can access that tab via the link and the description for that. This video overall was a little bit over 2 hours of drawing. So what I want to talk about today is, in the previous video, I know I talked about me and the process of rebooting my comic and how this is the second time. This is the second round. This is the second time I've worked on rebooting and the whole process of that, and how I felt I could have done better and why I did reboot my comic. I made a little bit of a blog about it as well as talked about it in my previous video. But what I want to talk about in this video is the trap of perfectionism. Specifically when it comes to me and my art. I know this is this is a topic that other artists might struggle with, but I'm coming at this from my point of view because it's something that I struggle with. So if you watch any of the full-length videos, you might hear me constantly say, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, and constantly saying that to myself to remind myself that it doesn't have to be perfect in my mind's eye before continuing on. And I have to constantly remind myself of this because I know for me, if something isn't looking perfect or how I see it in my eye, so I'm kind of shifting around here as I sit, it can cause me to not finish something or continue to nitpick something that other people most likely aren't going to even notice because they're going to be looking at the art piece or the page as a whole versus looking at these little small pieces or little small things within the image itself. And so that's a trap that I have fallen into with things in the past, and I'm trying to prevent myself from falling into while working on this comic. Even when writing this comic, there were times where I felt like I had to have everything planned out before, or worked out, planned and worked out before I even started touching certain subjects and things that didn't even really make sense. Like, I don't need to have this full-on working order of how the magic system works, or a detailed breakdown of how certain mechanics or certain things work in this fantasy world that I'm building. I can do what I want pretty much and not have to worry about explaining anything unless it's really called for. And for the most part, it's not, because it's not really pertaining to the story. So really getting over that sense of perfectionism in not only my art, but in also my storytelling. So that's been a huge thing that I've been working on in this process, in this project, is making sure that I'm not allowing my perfectionism to stop me from continuing and moving forward with my art. Like an example would be on page 1 in the battle, I think the last panel with the battle scene. There were poses that I felt like could have been more exaggerated to kind of help with maybe like action flow, or even in the second page, looking at it right now, certain aspects of like the figure or like certain objects, like that stuff, it's minimal when I'm comparing it to the overall story and the overall page. If it's something that someone notices, cool, fine, but I'm not expecting everyone who's going to be reading my stuff to be combing over every single page with a fine-tooth comb, picking out every little thing that might be wrong with something, or what they think might be wrong with something. And being okay with where I'm at with my art, where I'm at with my skill level, what I'm able to produce and put out there and be happy with, and being okay with the fact that no matter how much I try to nitpick at something, I'm going to get better as time goes by, right? As I continue to work on more issues of the comic and continue to study with my art and practice and things like that, like I'm going to naturally progress and get better, hopefully, right? That's what we hope for when it comes to being an artist, that we continue to improve as we continue to work on art. And I need to be okay that with what my comic looks like now, the next issue, my art may have improved dramatically, or it may have improved a little bit, or it may not improve at all. It just kind of depends, right? But being okay with where I am as time goes by and as I progress with the comic, versus feeling like once I feel like I've seen a difference from page, say 1 to page like 200 in a different issue, that I now have to go back and redo page 1 for it to match up the same quality as page 200, right? Because then I would never just be done with the project. I would always be going back and retweaking it and things like that. And there's just times where you finish a project, you call it done, and you move on to the next one. And that's what I want to do with this comic. I want to let this be the second and last time I reboot it, complete the comic series, because it's going to be longer than one issue, and call it done, and then move on to the next project. Now, I don't know if at some point I will work on, say, multiple projects at once. For example, like between working on Lynk and then maybe, say, working on another comic that I want to start writing. Like depending on when the other one is done writing, if I will end up pretty much drawing 2 comics at once, depending on how I can split that up if possible. But yeah, forgot where I was going with that, but pretty much not, just being able to move on from one project to the other, and not feeling I constantly have to redo or go back and revise the previous projects. Another thing I want to talk about really quick, kind of wrapping this up, is studying. For me in particular, I made a post or a blog about how going forward I will no longer be purchasing any more art books, as far as like teaching art books, inspirational books possibly, but as far as like learning books and or courses, that is going to be a no-go going forward. And I talked about the fact that I have pretty much probably 4+ years of art college information as far as like learning art on my shelves, and when it comes to books, and on my hard drives with courses that I've purchased. I've got so much information that if I took the time to actually study and delve into as much as I can, that I can see my art improving substantially without having to purchase anything else going forward. I have so many classes and books and stuff that I don't even see myself being able to complete half of it in like 2 years. And I mean, when I talk about going over or learning from this stuff, I'm not just talking about just kind of rushing through it and just to say that I'm done with it, but actually doing the lessons and studying the books, and then taking the time necessary in order to actually practice and implement what has been taught. In the blog, I've even like listed the books that I have and the courses that I have, and I actually forgot to list some of the courses that I have, but I've listed all the books, about 85% of the courses that I have, that I'll be learning from, and it's a lot of information. And maybe at some point in time I'll go over like what books I might be focusing on, or maybe go over like a book that I'm delving into and what I've learned from it, maybe later on down the road. And I might just cater that to actual blog posts versus like a video dedicated to that, unless that's something you guys would want to see. Maybe as I do like a flip through or show like my practices, my pages of practices on that particular book. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, like, so for artists who are out there, if you have books or courses and you're like, I'm not really seeing the improvement that I thought this course would bring or this book would bring, really, one, go through the course or the book, but then really focus on implementing what was taught to you over and over and over again. Like do 50 drawings or paintings or whatever the case may be, implementing the information that you were taught in that book, or maybe bump it up to 100 or maybe 200. Like, continue to integrate that information into how you do your art to see if it helps you improve. And then do that with the next thing. If you have another course, another book, take that information, really delve into it, and then, if it's something that, then, implement that for a certain amount of drawings. And then, you can also, when it comes to that, if you find that something works, continue to use that. If you find that something that was taught to you doesn't really fit into how you do things, or you have a different way of doing it, then do it that way. Don't feel like the books that you're learning from are a one all be all, where there's no other way to do it but that way. Experiment, expand, use what you have and see if that helps improve your art. So that's all I got for right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this little talk as we speed ran through working on page 2. And like I said, if you want to see the full video, 2-hour process, you can go to the extras tab that I will link down below in the description, and you can watch the full video there. So peace out, guys.